Let's see if I could, fix my proportions as I go. So I'm going to start at her wrist, and I'm going to press down harder just for the sake of the exercise. This is not necessarily how I would draw in class. So I'm going to get the angles of her hair. This angle's down. I'm going to kick out her rib cage a little bit more. So that will bring it to the left of her heel. So basically when you're doing the angles, you just got to think this, 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 this. Lots of like little ones, and they're just going to kind of dance down the figure. So back of the rib cage, and now let's go to the back of her butt. So now this is going to come on into her leg. And so this is going to come on down straight. So what I can do now is work a little bit in the center simultaneously. And I can see this is way too long on my drawing already. So now let's try to fix that. So angles. Now I've pulled this leg to where this line should be, and now my rib cage is a little bit more to the left and my heel is a little bit more to the right. So let's keep in sync with what we did before in the foot. Let's still go over. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the top again, and I'm going to do this forearm. What you want to try to remember now is each limb, so this forearm from here to here, each limb, the edge of it, has 4 angles, okay, 4 to 5 angles, and that will make things more organic, and those 4 to 5 angles are an S-curve. And I say to my students in class, do not draw, this kind of is contradictory because first you're doing straight lines, but as you do those straight lines, that's just your first step. You got to get to that organic S-curve for each limb, and so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 angles. So let me keep going here. So now let's do this upper arm. So it's going to be elbow, tendon, triceps, and then we're going to angle up. So very primitive here. Got those 4 angles. Now let's not even go to her face just yet. Now I'm going to do the breast from her chin. So I'm doing this with my angles. Okay, there's a couple of them right over there, bottom of the rib cage. Then we've got her stomach area, navel area. Okay, so let's go to this upper leg, kneecap area. Let's go back to this upper leg, which originates inside that peanut shape. Kneecap area again. Don't necessarily like this width, but we're just going to go with it. So 4 angles now. So we've got 1 comes in, 2, 3, and now 4 right to that inside of that foot. Use angles just to get that foot down. All right, so now I'm going to get this leg in with my angles. So I'm working a little bit more now in the center. This is going to come straight down, and this is going to go right into her heel. So basically, there are some teachers that only teach this technique of the angles. And there are some artists that will do this technique with the angles for hours on their drawing. They will just continually go back in and chisel. And sometimes you even see people holding their pencils this way, where they're going to really kind of hold it loosely and do this kind of like light angles thing. And they spend like a couple hours just doing that. And then the more angles that you do, the more organic everything gets. I'm just showing this to you in its most primitive way. So now I go inside and I would do the angles for her face. Actually, this line should be her face, and her arm should be a little bit higher. So this arm that I did should be up here, and this should be like all face. And then I'd get the 2 basic angles for the front of the face, and then I would go in and do all the little micro angles for her forehead, her nose, her lips, and all that. And that's how you would go about getting her likeness. Okay, so again, I cannot tell you how important this is. Let me just work on this like one little area down here. Excuse me. So I would come on in now, and so ankle, so a little bit of Achilles tendon into that heel, and so her foot angles in and then comes out, and then her toes are kind of like level to the floor together. Front of that big toe is going to go up. Okay, so now we've got bows up a little bit, and then we've got another angle over here. So that's how we go about doing that foot area. Again, not perfect here, but just want to think about this process. So now what I'm going to tell you last here is really crucial that you kind of get this. I'll do it down here because I'm running out of space. You want to think about this compass of north, south, east, west. It's, it's more about straight up and down, plumb. That's what that is called. When something is straight up and down, it's called plumb. And when something is perfectly straight across, it's called level. So what you want to do as an artist is find out on this drawing what is going straight up and down. And we're just going to say for now that her front of her kneecap area it's tilted a little bit, but I'm just going to do this for speed. And then we want to ask ourselves the question, what is perfectly level? So I'm going to say that the front of her toes are. I could also say that perhaps this like little area of her bicep area is. So now we want to compare angles to what's going straight up and down and what's going level. So if we look at the back of her butt right over here, her lower back, that's a subtle angle. And you need to be able to train your eye to see these subtle angles. This is a little bit more of like an extreme, almost 45-degree angle. So we're going to compare it to what's going straight up and down. And then we start to train our brain to recognize these angles. So then we don't draw a figure going crooked. And then the more that you can train yourself to see these angles and compare them to what's going straight up and down, what's going perfectly level, the better you're going to get at drawing a likeness. Okay. Now, remember, I understand that everyone watching these videos does not necessarily want to be able to draw hyper realistic, and they don't necessarily care about getting the figure to look exactly the way that the figure looks. They maybe just want to use these tools on purpose to exaggerate things. So you can actually do this and learn this technique and then apply it to your own style and purposely exaggerate things, and maybe you're going to exaggerate certain angles of the figure that you think really is their personality. So again, this is not always about realism. You can take these techniques and apply them to your own style and tweak them. But if you want to be able to draw a likeness and you want to be able to draw somewhat realistic, you've got to be able to master this technique of the containment system and the angles. All right, so let's move on to the next chapter.